still live in? And I said, not only no, but hell no, because I wouldn't sit still for all the bullshit that I would hear being presented before the council. But the reason we cannot, I just dropped in and just kind of looking around before the critical thinking room forum this today. By the way, I'm getting more and more disgusted with that room, but that's a whole different topic. But I just dropped into a room. There were only 4 people, and my good friend Steve, and those of you that Steve Wee, may know him from Critical Thinking Forum. I really like his views, and he and I are sort of similar. But in the room, this small room, 2 women and Steve and myself, and the question was, what must you do in order to preserve freedom? And what I said was an old Rickover quote, is that I said, in order for freedom to prevail, every individual within a nation of freedom must be able to accept responsibility, first for themselves, second for their family, and third for their country. And if you don't accept that personal responsibility and you become a victim, then you have not exercised the essential element to preserve freedom. Because if you're a victim and you call on government to solve the problems for you, then as every empire that's ever risen and declined, at some point, every one of those governments goes bankrupt, deeply into debt, and lose their ephemeral power because they can't pay for all the demands of all the citizens to make them happy. So without personal responsibility, you're never going to defeat leftists, they're the ones that look to government to supplant personal responsibility. And that's the downfall of empires.
Well, what business does Mamdani have in opening up low-income housing? I mean, this is just wealth redistribution through taxation. In Chicago, they spent $50 million on a low-income housing project with perpetual tenants and perpetual tax payments to the developers or the lessors. So we are living in an unnatural economy. 40% of our overall economy is through borrowing and spending. We are on a totally unsustainable path, and the fact that how we have gotten here, if we accept the personal responsibility of it, we have no choice but to speak out about the radical borrowing and spending and how it doesn't seem like it's ever going to stop. It's just linear.
Well, you have that going on right now, where you have Newsom permitting low-income housing, but hasn't passed any permits for any of the people in the wildfires. So those people are sitting there waiting. It did come out. Someone tried to challenge me yesterday and I had to acquiesce to their fact-check snoops. But then it was released today that, yes, Gavin Newsom is partaking through an NGO, through a charity event or whatever it is that his wife has set up. What is it? Fire charity, some stupid shit. That he is taking that money and not even distributing down to the people in need. There's a prominent individual who's like going into the sources and doing all the fact checking, and he's stating nobody's received a penny that he is aware of that he can find. So if that redistribution that you're speaking of, Edmund, is it's going on right now, and it really exemplified based on this one that I can't figure out why the left won't fucking at least acknowledge it and then do something to at least stop their own side. Instead, they just want to go Newsom for president.
Acknowledge. I'm sorry, I hopped in late.
Oh, that Newsom is blocking permits of people to rebuild their homes, and that he was basically taking from charity money, or his wife was. I'm sorry, it wasn't him directly, but his wife has been terms of the California wildfires.
I mean, state governors do some pretty stupid shit. I mean, Floridians started chanting DeSantis for president, even though we got hit with a fucking hurricane and we had no money because he spent all of it sending quote unquote legal immigrants over to sanctuary cities to prove a political point when we were literally in the midst of an impending hurricane, right? And we got fucking shit on by it, especially the coast. They got absolutely fucking mobbed by that shit. But I would say, like, yeah, I mean, state governors 24/7, as stupid as the people may be in the state sometimes to keep putting them in, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's on both sides of the aisle that we've always seen that, yeah, even if they do some stupid shit, being there once kind of almost guarantees you a second going unless you really, really fuck up.
Brad, I wanted to also include for the Pacific Palisades, that area, the residents have complained that they are not able to get the permits to start building. Just a couple, I think there was like maybe less than 10 permits. So what has happened since that time? The California State Senate has passed that they can purchase that land for low-income housing. So it makes you wonder, like, is that the reason why you're stalling? Because then you're gonna force these people into stall them out as long as possible, make them so uncomfortable that you are forced their hand to sell their land. It's problematic. And one last thing, Brad, when you're talking about nuisance wife charity, is called Cal Volunteers. And the problem with this, and I found out, unfortunately, the terrible way, I had to file a cease and desist to a charity that was utilizing my late husband's name, picture, likeness to raise funds, then not distribute or be accountable for said funds to be in fact sharing their profit and loss. So when I did that, I found out that every state within the state AG office has a department that is exclusively, that's supposed to work through all the investigations for charities. But it takes someone to sit there and say, this is what I have, this is what you need to do, this is my concern, this is the communication that goes through it. But if it's a charity that has political ties, then do we as a public have confidence that it's going to actually be investigated in the full capacity? And a lot of people don't know that charities, it takes a long time to get that status. It takes over a year, many times over. So that's the reason why people are allowed to take that money in, process it, and they're like, oh, okay, we got to close it down. But where did that money go?
It goes into administrative expenses, salaries, very little development. It's an epidemic of nonprofit charlatans and fraud. After COVID-19, Mark Zuckerberg and Priscilla Chan opened up a $100 million anti-inflammation research facility here in Chicago. And guess who helped spread all the lies of COVID-19 vaccines? Mark Zuckerberg. So maybe that's their payback to society, is to open up nonprofits to figure out how we can save ourselves from the injections and the inflammation and the clot shot. That's how billionaires seem to be using tax loopholes to defer income tax and put it into nonprofits that they control and can enjoy and utilize. But, you know, we put away Al Capone because of tax evasion. Are the liberals calling for any billionaires to be imprisoned for tax evasion on this app? Have you ever heard one liberal on this app say we should put Zuckerberg or Bill Gates in jail for tax evasion? Nope. You've never heard it. If you claim that they're involved in a COVID-19 vaccine conspiracy theory, they call you crazy.
Well, that does sound kind of crazy.
Really? You think it's crazy to inject the entire population with one patented formula? No dynamic medicine. Everybody gets the same shot, otherwise the pandemic doesn't end? That sounds crazy to you?
No, it doesn't sound that crazy.
What's crazy is leftist liberals who want to tax you to death through your property tax, through your income tax. Danelle, I mean, what do you think we should do? How should we solve the financial crisis that's brewing in America today?
I think we're just screwed regardless. I think we've reached a point of countries where the institutions become locked up. I think people don't really believe it anymore. I think we're just screwed. I don't think there is a magic wand to fix it. Sorry.
Well, apparently you don't believe in education because, if you know you're getting fucked over and you just keep voting for the same cocksuckering asshole who keeps fucking you over year after year, maybe it's an awareness problem. And through education, you can enhance your awareness.
Yeah, but that's going to take it. There's this great book on scientific revolutions about how science evolves over time and new ideas. They've extrapolated this idea to kind of everything, politics, sociology. It's by kids. And you just have to wait for a lot of people to die for that to happen. You have to have new ideas get popular. And it's just it would take a while. Like, you're not just going to, like, what is this going to be, like the Wizard of Oz? We get a fucking piece of paper and it, changes your mind about everything. Like, it's unfixable, man. You're cooked. Get over it.
Hello, KK. Just want to say hello. Hey, Dan, I want to, hello. I don't know how to pronounce this, Danny or Danelle. How do you?
Danelle.
Danelle. So how do you think we can save the left? Do you think we can save the right? Do you think we can save America?
He just said it's cooked. It's over. It's fucked. Apparently, this guy doesn't know how to fix anything. He doesn't clean anything. His house probably looks like shit. Apparently, he just lets things just fall apart and not actually replace or repair anything. That's Danelle's perspective on America. It's un-American. It's pathetic. It's weak. And it's not based on wisdom. Danelle, I'm sorry, but you've lost, you've gotten an F- if this was a report card.
So Danelle, would you like to answer the question?
I mean, nothing is impossible, but I'm just saying, like, in this culture, the culture that we live in right now, where, politics has become sort of this virtue signal culture war, how are you going to get the majority to implement these ideas? Like, you're not going to be able to do that. That's why it's cooked. Unless you can find some way to transcend that, and nobody's been able to. I mean, look at the... we've had two presidents back to back that have barely won a majority in Congress after winning. How are you going to get the legislation that you need to fix the problems? It's too cooked. The culture war is too powerful. This isn't. I just don't see how to fix it.
So that means, if I understand you correctly, that you personally do not believe in personal responsibility. You talk about cultural wars. The cultural wars right now are collapsing on those who think it's important for the social ills. We now know that men cannot get pregnant. We know that people should be responsible. We got rid of the pronouns. We get rid of a lot of this woke stuff. When do you think that the individual American decides on their own to get right and start to say, I cannot rely on government. I got to rely on personal responsibility. When does that happen?
I don't know, man. You have to tell me. I mean, it depends on what... I mean, Roger makes the interesting point where he says we would have to discuss what the role of government is in the first place and what the purpose of it to begin with is, right? I mean, that would
called limited. It's called limited.
It's called limited?
Yeah, it's called self-government. See, politicking is different than governance. Right now we have a lot of politicians in America. Very few people telling their constituents, the people they're supposed to represent, that they're responsible for their own life. No one's paying my mortgage. No one taking care of my wife. That's my responsibility. No one takes care of my children. That's my responsibility. There's nobody in California, where I live, coming and rescue Edward. Edward can't overextend himself. I can't be like our bureaucracy in our federal government. In the supermajority here in California, they're not thinking about the people. They're thinking about PMS. They're on a big period, I call it. My wife calls it a big period. They're like power, money, and sex. That's California politicians.
Well, I think you can leave the sex part out. The borrowing and the spending, again, is the problem. Let me repeat that for people who don't seem to understand the financial crisis. It's called borrowing and spending and giving it away to Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, the NDAA. That's $5 trillion a year, and we're borrowing and in $2 billion a day, or 2 to 3 trillion on top of what we collect in tax revenue. So again, for people that don't understand the crisis, it's called borrowing and spending. It has to stop.
But what does Social Security and Medicare have to do with the debt?
It's called a program that doesn't work. It's not sustainable.
No, but he's making the assumption that this program isn't working because it's causing borrowing and spending, and I'm asking, how does Medicare and Social Security contribute to the debt?
It's an expenditure, stupid. And when there's $100 billion in fraud in Medicare, Medicaid every year, and they don't even cut a budget for the fraud or wipe the fraud the fuck out, even in IRS income tax returns, that's like a $60 billion a year identity theft scam fraud. We have so much fraud in the system that if we don't shut it down, reanalyze it, reconfigure it, we just keep kicking the can down the road, borrowing from the Federal Reserve and international lenders. We are driving ourselves into a death spiral. And if the people of this country keep voting for Congress people that keep borrowing from the Federal Reserve and spending like drunken sailors, you can kiss your American dream the fuck goodbye, and it's all over.
So how much money does the U.S. annually per year borrow to fund Social Security and Medicare?
It's an aggregate. We are spending $5 trillion.
Let
me put it in ChatGPT for you, Danelle.
Hold on. I'll give you the most important piece of this is that the top two expenditures in the line item are the line items go like this: Social Security, Medicare, and then interest on the debt. And the interest on the debt is because of the Social Security and the Medicare spending. So the top three line items are directly related to Social Security and Medicare. We have 2/3 of the budget that are locked up in mandatory spending for these programs that, let's be honest, they're not helping. And furthermore, they're not really within the scope of what the government's supposed to be doing, if we're being fucking honest. If you want to help people, that should be a more local thing. The federal government saying that they're here to help is like one of the scariest fucking statements that people make. The idea that these things are helping in any way, they're gobbling up 2/3 of the fucking goddamn debt, which, by the way, this is outside of the budget. We collect $5 trillion in 2024. We spend $7 trillion. 2/3 of that was spent on the interest, on the Medicare and the Social Security, and then the next biggest line item is the interest on the debt. At some point, we have to address it, because what's going to happen is eventually the interest on the debt is going to become the biggest line item. And then the only way that you're going to be able to address it is to address the big line items outside of the interest on the debt, which is going to be Social Security and Medicare. The only other alternative is that we could just default on the debt and we could roll that out and see how that plays out. At this point, I'm up for anything that doesn't continue to pretend that somehow this is a good strategy. I want a shock to the system. I would say the first practical thing would be to pass a balanced budget amendment, so you cannot spend money that we don't have budgeted. That way, if you collect $5 trillion in tax dollars, then you spend $5 trillion, and that's the maximum. And if we were wise, we would spend less than that. That way we could begin spending down the debt, which, by the way, at $37 trillion, if you were to run a $1 trillion surplus every year, you still wouldn't pay it off in 37 years because of this little thing called interest. So it would take us about 70 years, if we did no additional deficit spending, to be able to pay off the debt that we have now. And that's assuming that we could find a way to save $1 trillion every year. So here's the point. The problem's fucking out of control. At this point, I'm of the opinion that we make a radical plan to fix it, right? Or we make a radical plan to break it. Because once we break it, then we'll be forced to fix it.
So, Roger, are you saying I can't write a check to cover it?
I would say nobody can write a check to cover it. Although they will take your share to try to pay for the interest on it. It's just a fucking game. It's very fucking irresponsible. And the problem is it doesn't help any of us. It doesn't help any of us. All we've done is we said, we're going to kick this fucking problem down the road because we don't want to deal with it in our time. We want our kids and our grandkids to be burdened with this fucking problem. And I think that's crazy. What problem in your personal life, in your family, do you want to say, I don't want to deal with this today. I want my kids and grandkids to deal with this problem. That's what the government's doing. I don't understand why we let them get away with it.
It's a lack of awareness, a lack of education. It's corruption. I mean, in Illinois, they just put the Speaker of the House in jail for 3.5 years because he's doing price fixing with ComEd, the utility. They put executives from the utility in prison. They've put political fixers in prison. But the utility bills just keep going up. We have to have real forensic accounting, real courageous leadership, and people who aren't going to deflect and always go back to climate change or how there's white supremacy and racism that's inherent in the system. The people that do that, you have to start paying attention to, and you have to call them out every time they do it because they are corrupt and a part of the borrowing and spending problem.
Right, and it's not just race, and it's not just gender. They use those as tactics to get people to stop talking at all. They feel like if they put a label on you, that somehow that's going to shut you up, and that it stalls all your progress. The other thing that we should absolutely think about is the lack of conversation that we have in this country about what's happened in Europe when they've opened their borders to Islam. We should talk about the fact that Islam is a pedophile death cult. We should talk about the fact that once they get the numbers, they are going to institute Sharia law. And when they do that, they are going to take over, and unless you're in support of pedophilia, their prophet, the Prophet Muhammad married a 6-year-old girl and fucked her when she was 9 years old. And now, if that's what you want for your country, then go ahead and allow people to get away with shutting down that conversation. You know how they shut it down? They won't even let you talk about this subject. If you bring up, if I even said, hey, let's talk about Islam, they'll say, here comes the Islamophobia. No, I'm not Islamophobic. I'm actually just pointing out that I'm anti-pedophilia, and we should play that game back on them. Why are you people supporting pedophilia? Or why are you afraid to confront pedophiles? And if you're not willing to deal with Islam honestly, then you are aiding and abetting pedophilia. That's the conversation we also need to have. But you guys aren't ready for it.
I'm looking at the age of consent laws in the Middle East, and I don't see the correlation for this pedophile cult that Roger's talking about.
I know you don't. I know you don't. Hold on. I know you don't.
Turkey doesn't. So where these are majority Muslim countries, they have Sharia law, Roger.
Hold on. Let me explain something to you.
Yeah, you're wrong. That's the explanation.
Okay. You can interrupt me all you want. Again, this is the tactic. Shut people down. I want you to go ahead and look at the age of consent law in Iran. I want you to go look at the age of consent law in Yemen. I want you to go look at the age of consent law in Afghanistan. And with the IRGC in Iran, without going to court, you can marry a 13-year-old girl. If you do go into a courthouse with the father's permission, you can marry a girl that's 8 years, 9 months. Now go look that up. Go put that prompt in your chat GPT. I know that you haven't thought about these issues until I just brought them up, and your quick little search on chat GPT didn't tell you these facts. But if you're okay with pedophilia, go ahead and tell me that I'm the bad guy.
So Iran is the entire Middle East. And how many Iranian immigrants going into Europe?
I think we all see what the problem is here.
I think we do too, and I think you're making like an expenditure that's very stupid. And it's funny because aren't libertarians normally the fucking open borders kings? Like, isn't that all they want is like free flow of everyone to everywhere?
It's very interesting, guy. Go ahead, Ross.
I just want to say thank you, Danelle, for proving my point here. When you bring up these issues, they will deflect. And I love how people say that I thought libertarians think this, I thought libertarians think that. First of all, like, fuck the Libertarian Party.
Well, to be fair, I don't think they think.
Yeah, well, to be frank, I don't think you do either. I think what you did is you put one single prompt into ChatGPT because you got offended because I did real talk about Muslims. And
no, I just knew you were wrong about this, so I was like, oh, I think
Daniel, I actually agree with most of what you're saying, but please stop interrupting. It's ear cancer. Thanks.
Danelle, well, let me ask you this: is the age of consent law in Iran? Does the IRGC allow you, with the parents' permission, to marry an 8-year-old girl that's 8 years 9 months? Is it yes or no that that's a fact?
Well, I mean, that's an argument against theocracy. In general, theocracy is in general bad. And I would say, yeah, Iran, Islamic Republic, or wherever the fuck, not good.
And Roger, or Mojo, Mojo Rising. How about Mojo Roger Rising? There you go. I know you like this Islamist, the 9-year-old having sex. I'm gonna give you zero.
I don't like it, actually.
No, I'm saying you didn't let me finish. You like that argument to counterpoint the left having the audacity of accusing a president of a free world of potentially, allegedly, being involved in such horrific acts. So I'll be the first to say it, man. I don't care what culture, what religion people can hide behind or whatever. It's absolutely grotesque. That's one of the plethora of reasons I don't identify as religious for stuff like that, and all kinds of other things beneath that. But to sort of, for any religious group to try to justify that because it is, you're a young bride, arranged marriage, all this, it's horrible. That said, though, does it concern you, though? I just did a random cursory search. Some articles are coming up. For example, why are some Republican lawmakers hell-bent on preserving child marriage? GOP lawmakers across the U.S. have opposed raising the marriage age, with some arguing child marriage. This is their own words. Child marriage bans, essentially, I guess, meaning anyone under 18 or 17, depending on the state. Child marriage bans would encourage abortion. Do you take issue with that?
Well, the abortion issue is something that the states can wrestle with.
Well, whatever the reason is, do you find it not disconcerting that the GOP lawmakers are trying to lower the age for marriage?
Yeah, I'll make my case on this. I think the age of consent should be 25, and I mean this not jokingly. The human brain is not fully developed until the age of 25.
That's a fact.
So that's where I would set age of consent. I mean, unless what you want to do is be able to manipulate the minds of a developed brain. So that's my position. So yeah, I oppose all the people that are doing that. But as far as you bringing up the president, the implications that a lot of these powerful people, whether they're in politics, whether they're in business, the elite, that we're going off to this pedophile island, I think that's very disturbing. And I don't think any administration has the gum to literally go after these people. What I can say with certainty, is that if there was something that could have gotten President Trump thrown in jail, if there was a smoking gun within those files, during the election, the people that were willing to try to get Trump thrown off the ballot, tried to throw him in jail, tried to assassinate him, they absolutely would have used weapons that were in these files against him if there was something that they could have proved.
So, Roger, I have a question. And I appreciate your stance of just saying consent age 25. But this is my question. when do we, as a country, think that our morality or the, what's the word I would use? Well, let me say it this way, because my parents, my dad was 21, my mom was 16. They've been married 58 years. I'm the 15th of 17 children, but they were married. And I do agree that pedophilia, these MAP now, what they call minor attractive persons, they're changing the words and stuff. I'm just trying to wrap my head around the countries that are theocracy versus where we as Americans have our own set of morality or what we consider consent. Where do we, Sharia law, just this stuff is disturbing, guys. I can't even wrap my head around it. You said so much, I'm just trying to figure it out, Rod. But it's pretty sad. That's all I can tell you. That's my point. It's just pretty sad that men would even think that they want to engage with a 9-year-old, 11-year-old, whatever. It's just pretty scary.
Yeah, no, it's very disturbing, and then the common thing that comes up when I bring up this topic about how we should crack down on these things and do it fearlessly. We shouldn't be afraid of being called Islamophobic by pointing out that the Prophet Muhammad was a pedophile. We should not be afraid to call it out. What typically gets thrown out there is this idea that, back in the day, even here in America, Delaware had an age of consent law of 7 years old. The point of why that's not relevant is that if you were to go conduct man-on-the-street interviews in the state of Delaware and ask the people in Delaware, what do you think of age of consent being 7? They would all say, that's absurd, that's abhorrent. If you ask that same question of Muslims in 2025, and we've done that on these stages, they will say she was old enough. Their words, not mine.
What did you say this? Okay, and that's right, horrific, agreed. But what about, again, going back to our fearless leader in the White House, who is actually trying to ban, I'll be happy to find the article, it's not that hard to find. He's trying to ban, I believe, a federal law. So I think, as most of us know, right, with therapy, there is therapy and priests. Two toughest people to get up in court on a witness stand to talk about their people that come to them in confidentiality. My understanding in both those scenarios, however, is that what reigns supreme over the confidentiality agreement is if they think that their persons is at risk of harming themselves, or more apropos, harming someone else, then that completely absolves that confidentiality agreement. President Donald Trump is attempting to ban a federal law that allows priests, because you're talking about the Islam, well, as equally as bad is modern day Catholics. Many priests, I can't think of one who's ever been held accountable and sitting behind bars for child molestation of altar boys and such. And Trump is trying to now ban the ability, the federal law that allows for priests to speak to law enforcement if a child has come to them in confidentiality saying that they have been abused either by another priest or by any adult on this planet. Why would the president try to do that?
Put it in the chat, Moose. I don't believe that for a second.
Yeah, well,
you don't believe? I don't blame you, American. I'll put in multiple links. Stand by. Go ahead, Mojo.
Yeah, put the link in the chat so people can follow along. But I'll speak to this idea that, like, I'm the wrong person to ask to defend Donald Trump. I didn't vote for him in any of the 3 elections that he ran. I don't have a lot of pleasant things to say about him. I do like the fact that he ordered those strikes on those terror sympathizers, the ones that sponsor terror around the world. I thought I thought hitting the nuclear sites was a good idea. The only thing that I question about that is the wisdom of only doing it once. I think that we should set our clock and probably do that every 3 days just to make sure that that program never gets off the ground. I'm not going to sit here and defend Trump on any of this stuff. Like my condemnation for this type of behavior and policies that would condone this stuff, this can apply to anybody. I'm not in a camp. I'm not part of a God club that says that I want to protect this group or that group. I think that God exists, and I think that that's evident. I think anybody that's paying attention can recognize that. What I don't think is that we necessarily need to join a God club and make truth claims about the characteristics of God. If you want to do that, you're totally, that's on you. I respect people like Edward. I consider Edward a friend. I don't think that he's wrong for owning the beliefs that he has. I personally find it more useful, though, to stand outside of that God club and to say, okay, if we're going to have an organized society, what are the rules going to be? And I like John Stuart Mill's take on we should be free to do what we want to do, provided that we don't harm anyone. I would set age of consent laws at 25. I think the fact that people want to have sex with children is fucking abhorrent. And whether or not they're a Catholic or a fucking Muslim or any other religion or an atheist, by the way, we shouldn't let atheists off the hook. Atheists have killed more people than anybody. If we look at Stalin, if we look at Pol Pot, if we look at Mao, we can understand that the godless people, surprise, surprise, are the most deadly on the planet. So I have smoke for all of them, Moose. So yes, if Donald Trump is holding the door open for pedophiles.
We'll see if he's back. But Moose.
Well, Moose, let me go ahead, America.
I was going to say,
No,
Moose,
you're
don't
saying
you?
they're fake news? I mean, New York Times, MSNBC, Courthouse News. These aren't
all
like, it's not
horrifically fake
National
news.
Enquirer, man.
Rolling Stones puts out fake news all day. MSNBC puts out fake news all day. It's all anti-Trump bullshit, and you're just peddling it. All you're doing is spewing propaganda and lies.
Okay.
It's all stupid.
Cool.
I
Right
salute you for
Can I-
posting the
can I
links.
interject on
Congratulations.
Right on, man.
Wait, can I interject on this? Because, if you read even the first link, and then I just went through and looked up a couple of things, because I was actually shocked at this for a moment. And this actually stems from a Washington State law that they imposed on.
That is correct. I stand corrected on them. It wasn't a federal, it was Washington State. That is 100% true, correct.
Yes, and so this repeal, a federal judge, oddly enough, in that district, which is more left-leaning, agreed with the plaintiffs that brought forth this case, which happens to be whatever Sky Daddy religion it was. They agreed with it that it is a bridge into determining how people would practice their beliefs. For instance, a priest can hear a confession from a murderer. That doesn't mean they have to report said murder. That's held within the confines of that. So putting this kind of stamp on a religious order for a priest to, during confession, hear this and then say, I have to report this, or use their own brain work or their own determination to determine what is child abuse and what isn't, which child neglect, without any formal training, this would lead to, I would say, more problematic, and it would probably bring up more further constraints on priests in terms of following their faith. I'm not sure I oppose 100% of your viewpoint, Moose, but I actually can sit down and say, all right, I see where they're coming from with this. I can see where they were looking at towards the future, and when states start to impose laws regulating people's religious beliefs and doctrines.
So Moose, I just want to make sure before you go on that this legislation does not come from a president. Okay, the president doesn't make law. It actually starts.
I understand that, Edward. I didn't say he made the law. I said he was he was backing the church to block this law. Now, of course, the president is not. That's Congress, correct?
Yeah, but if you put it out as if though the law that already is on the books, like what Brad was talking about, there is a protection for those who have either their therapist or even their doctor or their priest, whatever. There's protected law already. So I don't think that, based on what you said, I just want to make sure I'm understanding that the president of the United States does not normally sit down and look at all these things. He has a cabinet of people that's bringing him things. I don't think he's read up on this one based on what you said. I think a lot of times we get caught up in things and we make it as if though the individual, and I want to make sure everybody knows this, the president of the United States is not our leader. He's the leader of the free world. Each individual person is their own leader, hopefully. I think that we got to get back to personal responsibility. That's where I see it.
I gotcha. I mean, I guess it's just any attempt. And like I said, I acknowledge this was not federal, although I guess I thought so because a federal judge was involved. But yeah,
But Moose,
it was
are
a
you
lawsuit.
asking yourself, why would Trump want to do this?
Exactly. Like I don't have an answer.
It's
Why
called,
would the
it's
president
called
even get involved?
anti-Trump propaganda.
Why would the president get involved,
Duh.
though, American? Why would the president put his name on this at all?
Look at the news source and the journalists. Are you this daft and that stupid to know that all communication is
all right,
spam?
gotcha. So
It's
American,
just
cool.
fake
If you
news,
don't-
stupid. It's clickbait.
Gotcha.
Just like all Clown
Gotcha.
House room titles are clickbait generally.
Okay, cool. So then what about all these stories around the world? And forget Trump. That has nothing to do with Trump, but actually, are all the stories around the world, like, do you think...
All the stories around the world?
Stand by. Do you think it's all fake news that priest have molested kids?
Welcome to the publishing industry. If you think sending Grant Cardone $99.95 to go to Grant Cardone University is going to make you money and not cost you money, you're part of the sucker group. And guess what, Moose? This is your great awakening and enlightening. MSNBC is fake news. CNN is fake news. Your Rolling Stones puts out fake news.
Fake.
It's called the publishing industry, stupid. It's called the publishing industry, stupid. Wake up before you get suckered into more scams and spams, and then come here and spread more fake news and more propaganda.
Guys. Hold on.
Shut up, American.
Hold on. American, listen. Moose has ideas that I disagree with, just like I have ideas that he disagrees with. But the one thing I can vouch for Moose is that he doesn't argue in bad faith. He comes to these rooms to just, sometimes to just challenge the conviction that some of us have, and to speak what's on his mind. I think we need to create that place. I think there's a way to rebuttal the things that you disagree with without being inflammatory. There are definitely people on this app that we should shit down the neck of. I don't think Moose is one of them.
Well, that's fine, but I'm just saying the links that he put in the chat, to me, they're fake news. Now, if you want to deflect about pedophiles and Trump and the Catholic Church from the fact that we are borrowing and spending ourselves into a debt spiral oblivion, let's go back to that important topic instead of the bullshit fake news that you can't seem to let go and put in the chat. So thank you very little, Dr. Moose.
Fake news, and it's in Google, You can call everything fake, but there is a backup to that story.
Sorry, Dr. David, but can
Google
we save the
fake
leftists? Let's get back to the room title then, David, because I know you're a confirmed leftist. Can we save you?
Well, you know all about me.
Wait a minute, hold on. Like, if you're not going to take the concerns of somebody like Moose, and then you're going to ask for controls over economic principles or the foundation of the country, if you can't actually acknowledge that this is a concern that may be on his radar, and he may want answers, and he may want clarity, and like he just conceded that he thought it was a federal, and it turns out it was actually a state law, and he agreed to that. And you don't take your time to actually talk with him and actually have that conversation to go to the nuances and say whether you agree or disagree with this, you'll never win on an economic front. It cannot only be on economics. We've tried that for years in conservatives. Guess what? Conservatives lost. Like, I'm going to tell you, I've lost. I mean, like, probably the last of a dying breed. I'm done. It is a new Republican. It is a new there's no more liberals left. There's no more libertarians. We're all dead. We're done. And you're not going to win the economic front by just screaming economic. You won't win. Just is your main source. You have to address everything else.
And Brad, I think that what you just said, that's why we're collapsing. I think Roger said in 2030, guys, because we can't support all the programs. We can't support, and I'm going to use these terms so you guys understand, Black Lives Matter, okay? And I'm using that as an illustration so you guys understand SNAP, WIC, all these things that's taking place in the United States, Social Security, Big New Deal. We've gotten so far away from personal responsibility in America that now we think there's some institution or some group of people that's going to save the individual. It doesn't work. And it's very unfortunate because now we're in a country where people actually think that someone's actually coming to their rescue. And it's pretty sad.
I think America does need a political savior. They need someone to actually help them out and with their economic needs. And I do think that is the MAGA populist movement. I think that I disagree with you, Ed, a little bit that that we have to do away with some of that stuff. Some of that stuff I agree with. Some of that stuff I disagree with. I think, protecting Social Security, protecting Medicare, Medicaid, all these things, these are political wins because people want big government. People want government intervention if it benefits their personal lives. And I think that's actually a bipartisan view. I think that's a wing message. I think both political parties should double down on that. I say moving away from that because that's when Republicans become losers, when they actually focus on fiscal conservatism, focus more on the debt than helping individual people's lives, the working class, these people who are struggling paycheck to paycheck. You need the government to intervene to help these people out. Sure, there's personal responsibility.
Wait, hold on. No, hold on. Why do you need the government to do this? See, you made this statement that you need the government to do this. What you've done is you've just accepted leftist rhetoric and you've framed it. You've got your own heroes that you want to see elected, but you've accepted their framing that the government must do that. And my question for you, Astro, is why have you accepted the leftist framing of what the government's role is?
I wouldn't say this is a leftist framing. I would say, it's basically interventionism versus non-interventionism. It's not exclusively left or right. You had Democrats, like in the Bill Clinton era, who actually were less for government intervention in the economy and certain issues, okay? And you have right-wingers like Josh Hawley and J.D. Vance who are for government intervention in the economy and certain issues, okay? And they're not leftists. They're right-wingers.
No. They LARP as right-wingers, but they're not. The new Republican Party is not capitalist. The new Republican Party, they do want to intervene in the economy, which by definition makes them non-capitalist. And the fact is that you guys have accepted this. You guys have accepted this horse shit. You guys have accepted this idea that Donald Trump, because you like him better than you like the other team, that his bad ideas are okay, that tariffs, putting a tax on fucking consumers is okay. You accept all of this shit that are bad ideas that I would expect to come from lefties, but because you have like a foul-mouthed fucking guy like Trump, you think that that's more edgy and it's more cool. I just want to understand, where the fuck did your principles go?
Well, I would say this, I think you're right. The Republican Party is moving away from free market capitalism. I welcome it. I think that's a great thing. It doesn't mean they're socialists or leftists. I won't say it. But I do think the shift to economic populism, that's what I would call it, is good for the American people. But I would disagree with Trump on certain things. I'm not going to say I agree with him on every single little thing. But I do think, from the 2008 recession, from, Occupy Wall Street, from all these elites who keep promising all these different things, actually never deliver for the American people at all. You vote them in.
You agree that borrowing and spending is the solution. You just admitted it. You think moving away from capitalism and moving to socialism, communism, borrowing and spending and wealth redistribution is the way that the Republicans should go? That's the way you think, Astro? Mr. MAGA?
Well, I would say this. I'm not a socialist. I'm for economic intervention. Just because you're for economic intervention doesn't mean you're socialist. There's alternatives to capitalism and alternatives to socialism.
Economic intervention is another term for borrowing and spending.
Hold on. Astro, I have a question for you. when you said there's an alternative or something, I'm 100% against big government in any form, including Donald Trump. Okay, all of them. I believe the responsibility should be back to the local level, to the state, and to the individual. That's why our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, our Declaration, these are our founding documents. We hold these truths to be self-evident. We are way too big on interventionism. And look around, it's not working. We got way too many Americans right now who can't even think for themselves. Because you know why? They're looking to government. When do the individual in America, Astro, decide that this is their America, not someone who's in some central area making decisions on behalf of Edward? I just help me with that.
Well, I would say that if you actually had decreased federal government power, but empower the states to do like economic regulation, stuff like that too. I'm before that as well. That's still big government policy, just more on the local level. I think that's fine. But for the individual as a collective.
So you'd rather have the local government take over the business spectrum and have the government manage it all? Astro, shut the fuck up.
Well, yeah, hold on. Astro, here's the fucking issue. Here's the issue. Like, who fucking needs fucking leftists if we've got righties like you? Like, this is crazy. Like, you're not a capitalist, right? And you think that having alternatives to capitalism is a good idea. You've ignored the fact that capitalism has a track record of pulling more people out of poverty than any other economic system, and you're like, yeah, fuck that, we'll try something new. And the thing that you want to try that you think is new are lefty ideas, but as long as they're advocated by Republicans, you're all for them. What the fuck do you actually stand for, Astro?
Yeah, I would say this is that, like, hey, the socialists would say, hey, the USSR became a global superpower under their economic system. I'm not going to sit here and say communism is a good thing, socialism is a good thing, just because there's small little benefits here and there for their economic system, okay? And I would say this, that, like, I do have principles I stand on.
Economic solution, they were a mafia group that took over by murder and mayhem. They were terrorists.
Economic nationalism is key. You don't actually give you don't give all your cultural values for the GDP for higher GDP. You don't actually decrease your sovereignty to give it to the mega corporation who doesn't care about your values, who doesn't care about your culture, who actually will sell you on a dime just to actually make a quick buck. That's what capitalism in the United States does already. That's one reason why I like Ron DeSantis going after Disney, because these mega corporations that go against conservative values need to be crushed by the state. It's just the truth.
Well, hold on. First of all, you don't possess conservative values. Let's be fucking clear on that. Secondly, this idea that fucking economic nationalism, if economic nationalism is your idea, then you're not fiscally conservative, period, point blank, because you're not going to be able to keep, if you want to put regulations, you want to put your hand on the scale of the market, you know what large corporations are going to do? They're going to give you the fucking finger and they're going to go elsewhere. This is why people that don't understand economics like yourself should shut the fuck up in these conversations. You should be doing more reading and more listening. The fact is, the only reason anybody ever comes up with these economic nationalism ideas is because in their fucking heart of hearts, they're just fucking racist. What you really think, this is what the fuck at the heart of MAGA is. The heart of MAGA is that we want the country to be white again, and we don't give a shit if it's economically successful. You can give me the thumbs down all you want. I'm telling you exactly the way that this stuff plays out. You guys are prioritizing this idea of what you think the country should look like over what would be effective in terms of governance. This is why you have these xenophobic views about immigration. Now, I would agree with Trump about illegal immigrants. You dumb motherfuckers don't want immigration of any fucking kind. I guarantee you that if we were to continue down this conversation, we're going to get to some Pat Buchanan, David Duke horse shit where you can laugh all you want. You probably like those guys. Why don't we pause right there? Astro, tell me your thoughts on David Duke and Pat Buchanan.
I disagree with David Duke. Pat Buchanan had some good ideas. I disagree with him on a lot of things too, but I think he's better than David Duke. Yeah.
I bet you couldn't tell the difference between their policy. Here's at the end of the day, look, if you're not a fucking capitalist, then you're not a fucking conservative. Because if there's anything
wrong.
Well, no, it's true. It's true. And by the way, if you're going to be a fucking anti-capitalist, why not at least fucking go hang your fucking your coat with the fucking lefties? Like this thing that you're doing, I honestly am starting to believe that the left's new tactic is to infiltrate the Republican Party, behave like leftists, and tell you that white capitalism is a bad fucking thing. This is fucking crazy, and I hope that the Republicans that are in this room that are free market capitalists can hear this horse shit and understand what this fucking guy is saying. This guy is not a conservative. He probably doesn't even follow politics. I guarantee he's never read anything when it comes to economics. He's probably never heard of Ludwig von Mises. He's probably never heard of Friedrich Hayek. He probably has never understood what the Chicago School was all about. I won't get into Adam Smith because I know that's above your reading comprehension level. And if I said School of Salamanca, you would think it's a character from Breaking Bad. So I won't get into any of those things with you because you're a fucking idiot.
Wasn't Adam Smith?
Astro, I'm gonna tell you right here. As one of the more prominent voices in the conservative spaces on this app for 5 fucking years, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around somebody who literally has espoused. Where's Moose? Moose, apologize, cover your ears. This is meant no way any kind of offense. But literally has been a wet dream for Moose's side of the arguments on the political spectrum for 5 fucking years. Like I have had arguments with Moose over these very principles that you're now espousing, and you're saying that you're coming from a conservative lens. I wouldn't pick that up from you myself. I won't. And Roger and I go toe to toe, and he'll yell at me at times, and it's fine. I respect him and I admire him more for it. But I mean, your economic principles are nowhere near any conservative I've ever read, heard, or even had a discussion with would believe.
And if Astro is a mole or a Democrat shield in the guise of Republican or MAGA, you can have him.
Okay, well, what I was going to say is that, like, I'm not a fiscal conservative, but guess what? The Republican Party is not a fiscally conservative party either. I mean, it's a big...
I've been saying that for fucking years. That's not a brag. Fucking retard.
Let me respond to you, Bojo. It is a big tent party. It is not the Libertarian Party. If you want a pure libertarian economic theory, there is a party for you. It's called the Libertarian Party. Go there, get 2% of the vote, and just and vote for them all the time. Okay, but here's the thing: the Republican Party is big tent. There's different groups of people with different ideologies within it, and I'm one.
If they made fucking room for your dumbass.
Well, that's how we won.
But Astro, right stop there. You can say it's a Big Ten party. I'll acquiesce to that. Yeah, Trump has allowed literally everybody in. I would say, though, you need to refrain from saying you're a conservative because that principle does not apply to you at all. Not even close. Not even on you may have one issue that crosses over so far, maybe. I don't think you've actually stated an issue that conservatives would follow or believe in. But I don't know. Like, we haven't finished yet. Roger's going to tear you up a bit, but if you're thick skinned enough, I would say stay in it. But he's going to tear you up.
Astro, do you even know what's in your PTR? No more endless wars. Do you realize your economic policy is what guarantees endless wars, you low IQ nitwit?
I would say no. It's ultimately the for-profit motive of actually selling all these weapons to all these different countries. That does actually ensure.
Oh, now we found it. Economic nationalism because you hate the Jews. Go ahead.
Well, I do think we should reorient our alliance with Israel. I do, but I won't say I hate the Jews. Though.
There you go.
So Astro,
that didn't take long.
No, it did. So Astro,
this is how I knew that he was down with David Duke and Pat Buchanan.
Come on, Roger. Leave Alex.
Wait. I want to entertain this a bit. Like, what do you mean revalue our alliance with Israel?
They're not good partners. I mean, they've had the international ire of every single country known to man. They've actually gotten our bases in the Middle East bombed because they keep doing hostile aggression against Iran. I mean, they're not good allies.
Wait a minute. Hold on. You're gonna shut the fuck up. How about that? So you're gonna shut the fuck up. No, you can't. Respectfully, no, you can't. Listen. You said it all right now. You said that their aggression against Iran, they're being attacked on multiple fronts from terrorist groups that are sponsored by the IRGC. And your response is that we should realign our foreign policy because that Israel is the problem. This is how we know how problematic you are. So you want economic nationalism, but you also would be more sympathetic to the IRGC, which is a country of religious fundamentalists that pray to a prophet that molests little girls. This is your politics. And I'll tell you, that has nothing to do with any Burkean fucking conservatism. What branch of conservatism do you come from? I want to hear the tree that you've come from. I would bet I could predict it, and I would bet that I actually wish we were in person. I would write down the fucking answer. I would fold it up in a piece of paper. I would seal it in an envelope. I would ask you the question, and then I would say to one of the pretty ladies, please open the envelope and unfold the piece of paper. I guarantee you I know where your dumbass ideas come from. And I'll tell you right now, it's not conservatism. You're just a fucking bigot. But go ahead. You can speak now.
Well, Mojo, how about you guess first, and I'll tell you. I'm just curious if you guess right.
That's not how predictions work. Go ahead.
Well, just guess. I'll tell you. I'll tell you if it's correct or not.
I think that you're probably a groyper. I would say that Nick Fuentes is probably somebody that you're very fond of. Am I close?
Close, but no cigar. I would say that I'm closest to the Christian nationalist movement.
Got it. The Christian nationalist movement. I don't know if there's fucking awards for accuracy here to be able to spot the fucking foolishness from a mile away, but my track record here is fucking impeccable. I smelled you coming. For fuck's sake.
So, Astro, how would you then, as a member of said Christian nationalist movement, what is the crux? What is the agenda, if you will, your reasoning behind that? If I'm not mistaken, I think some stories have been surfacing where they're trying to actually allow this in corporations now, allow religion